Hello humans and extraterrestrials. So if you ever watch my videos semi-intently, you will realise that there are plenty of books missing on my TBR shelf and things have been moved around, and that is because today I'm filming a video about my TBR. So this is the TBR tag. I watched a video that Ariel Bissett did about this. It's just a tag that sort of talks about how you do your TBR and certain books within it, and I thought it was really interesting, so here we are. So the first question is, how do you keep track of your TBR pile? Now I have two ways really, which is that firstly I have this shelf back there that is all of my TBR books, and I also have a Goodreads account where I keep track of those ones, and also my non-physical TBR, like books that people mentioned. For example, Red, White and Royal Blue is an example of that. I would really love to read that book. Or Binti. I don't know, but there's lots that I would really love to read that I just don't have physical copies of. Queenie, that's another one. I will link my Goodreads in the description if you'd like to go and look at my Goodreads. But yeah, I use both physical. I like to have all my TBR physically in one place, so that when I want to read a new book, I can just go to it, as opposed to having to look around and be like, okay, so where are the books I've not read? It's easier just to have them in one place for me, and just sort of be like, oh wait, my screen with my questions is full. Just be like, okay, which one? My second question is my TBR mostly print or ebook, which is really easy for me. Print, clearly. I have a few ebooks for things like Harry Potter's free on ebook. There's certain series that are free on ebook because our family has a Prime account, so it connects to Kindle reading or like Amazon reading or whatever, where there's certain books you'll get for free. But I don't ever buy ebooks really, because it's not, I just like the feeling of physically having a book in my hand, you know, like I like it. So yeah, I've always been like that, but you know, it's just how I do it. How do you determine which book to pick next? Well, as you can see over there on my shelf, there is a pile there which is usually bigger than that, but because I've got books here, I tend to have sort of 10-ish books on there at a time, and they will all be of different genres, or they'll be coming from lots of different places. And they are sort of my go-to immediately to next read one of these, maybe. And then I'll pick from one, and sometimes I won't pick from that. Sometimes I'll just have an inkling that, oh, I really want to read Good Omens, or I'm really in the mood for a sci-fi and there's not a sci-fi on there, sort of thing. But like, you know, so it depends, but generally speaking, that pile there, I pick one from it. Okay, my next question is a actual question about a book, which is, which book on your TBR have you had for the longest? Now, there's a few that probably come similarly to this, but the oldest one that I could think of was this, which is The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, which, if you're unaware, is, I would even say classic, well, not like old classic, but a classic Narnia book about 4 kids, one of which goes into a wardrobe and discovers a whole other world. I'm sure if you're aware of the story of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, it's the most well-known Narnia story. I don't really know any of the others because I had copies, like little copies of all of them, but I think I got rid of them, or they got lost in the move and things. But I've always wanted to read this because I remember loving the film as a kid, and I know that's the opposite of how most people do things, and generally speaking for me it is as well, but I've always wanted. I also was given this was a gift. This was a gift from a family friend, so it also reminds me of him, which is nice, because we don't see that person as much anymore. So a book that you recently added. Okay, I have 2 for this because a few days ago I went and bought 2 books. So I have 2. I'll just do them one at a time. So the first one is The Familiars by Stacey Halls. Now, I Didn't I love this cover? I didn't buy this out of specific, like this wasn't on my non-physical TBR, the other one was. But I was looking for a sort of historical fiction because I don't read a lot of historical fiction. You can't see me very well. I don't read a lot of that's better. I don't read a lot of historical fiction. This is set in the 1600s, Lancashire, 1612. It also about the witchcraft accusations, and the witch trials, which is an interesting topic to me, really. But this is a story about female friendship, and how women will risk. I'll just read you the thing. Okay. Lancashire, 1612. Fleetwood Shuttleworth is 17 years old, married and pregnant for the 4th time. But as mistress at I can never say this. But as mistress at Gawthorpe Hall, she still has no living child, and her husband Richard is anxious for an heir. Then she crosses paths by chance with Alice Gray, a young midwife, who promises to help her give birth to a healthy baby. When Alice is drawn into the witchcraft accusations that are sweeping the northwest, Fleetwood risks everything by trying to help her. As the legendary Pendle witch trials approach and Fleetwood's stomach continues to grow, time is running out and both their lives are at stake. So yeah, it seems really interesting. It's also like pretty, for me anyway, it seems like a relatively long book. I think it's getting on for 500 pages. No, oh no, it's not as big as I thought it was. 420 pages, which is pretty on the average side, but I don't read a lot of bigger books. It looks like a big-ish book, but that's just because I don't read big books. I hate big books, generally speaking, because I am lazy and weak. Anyway, the other book I have here, which was on my TBR, is Bernardine Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other. This is a set of, I was going to say short stories, but that's not true. This is a story built up of 12 different girls and women, so different people's stories, each one in a chapter, and they all sort of intermingle as it goes on. Yeah. And it looked really interesting. I've heard lots of good things about this. And I think it's just sort of a tale of just what women are now. And it's just looked incredibly interesting to me, and I thought I would find it fascinating, so here we are. I also, for someone who is a feminist, don't read a lot of books about women. Like, I really don't. Anyway, moving on from that, yeah, there are 2 recent ones. A book on your TBR strictly because of its cover. This was a book that I bought. This isn't strictly, I mean it's majoritarily in comparison to my other books because of its cover. I went through a phase a few years ago of just buying books. I mean, I still just buy books sometimes, but like without really caring about the story, just being like, oh, that's vaguely interesting because there was sales. But now I just tend to buy books I think I'll read because I hate having a TBR full of books I don't care about, but I don't want to chuck any of them out. You know, like, so this is The Keeper of Lost Things by Ruth Hogan, and as you can see, it has a very nice cover, or I think it has a very nice cover. I really liked it at the time. This came out in 2017, I believe. Yeah. It's about Anthony Perdrew, who, spent his life collecting a bunch of weird things, like objects, and then one day he's sort of trying to atone for a promise broken many years before. Yeah, he's basically trying to fulfill something, and then realizes he's running out of time, and I don't really know a lot about it. It has a lovely cover, and I will maybe read it one day. However, all of its glittering reviews are from like the Daily Mail, so I don't know. But yeah, that's that one. Book on your TBR that you never plan on reading. Now, I don't buy books that I'm never going to touch again. However, I do occasionally buy books that I buy more for skimming through and taking reference in than reading cover to cover, because they're more like a textbook than a book. For example, Women Our History, which has a foreword by Lucy Worsley, and has been, is there more? I don't know if there's more. And the senior editor was Catherine Hennessy. And lots of other people made it. Lots and lots of people made it because it's very much a textbook. Let me show you. Like, it's very textbook-esque, and it's really nice to go to reference to, because again, it'd be a bit weird to read this cover to cover. However, it's incredibly interesting to have as a sort of thing to pull out and to find reference in, saying that I have read certain sections cover to cover just because I really like certain parts. Like, there's parts about certain religion, and let me find it. There is, yeah. I read the stuff about, where are we? I read the stuff about the world's first women, cover to cover, which is from pages 14 to 16, I think. To 16? 14 to 18. Because I really just like the starting out, and there's also some stuff in here about how women have been portrayed in certain religions and cultures, and how they've been, different places have been more sexist, more or less. But yeah, this, amongst many others, I have a lot of, I have a few books that I wouldn't read cover to cover because they're more just about, you know, referencing and finding things from them. A book, an unpublished book that you're really excited for. Well, an unpublished book that I'm really excited for, I will show the cover of here, is Hank Green's A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour. I read this, which is an absolutely remarkable thing by Hank Green, last month, and it was phenomenal. It was a 5-star read, 100%, loved it, thought it was brilliant. However, it was left on a cliffhanger, so when I heard about the sequel, A Beautifully Foolish Endeavour, well, I'd already known that there was a sequel, but when I heard about them selling signed pre-orders, I did that. So when it comes out, I will get a signed copy because I am really excited about this book. Because this, I'll tell you, this story is about a girl named April May who stumbles across a sort of a structure that looks sort of like a robotic statue of a person kind of thing. It's this. That's what this is. And she films video about it, puts it on YouTube, and it goes viral. And then it becomes more of a sci-fi story than a contemporary, which is how it starts. I thought this was phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see what happens, because Hank really left it on a ridiculous cliffhanger. Like, it really, why did you have to? Are you just doing that because you know that it means I'll buy the sequel? Because if so, then your plan is working, Hank Green. Another one is the next one, a book on your TBR that basically everyone's read but you. I have a series here. I have a series because it's kind of ridiculous at this point that I have never read The Hunger Games. I know. I feel like 4 years ago that would have been an absolute travesty. Like, people would have lost their goddamn minds. But I think now people are aware that, like, reading isn't something you should be forced to do. Like, in the same way that if you haven't read all the classics, there's nothing wrong with that, you know? I have owned these for years, however, and I don't know. I just never really got around to them, to be honest. If you're unaware, The Hunger Games is a dystopian, which at the time was a very popular genre. That I would go as far to say that this was the most popular dystopian series in 2014, I guess. What do I really know about this? It's about 24 people that appear in like a TV show. I guess it's a TV show? Yeah, like in a live reality show called The Hunger Games, where they basically fight for food and life. And there's romances in it and all that jazz. Yeah, every single person I know who's into booktube has read this. I know a lot of people in real life that have never read it, but that's because, you know, tastes are different. A book on your TBR that basically everyone recommends to you. I have, again, a series. And that is, the rest of a series, because I've read some of it already, which is his Infernal Devices, which is a Philip Pullman, I was going to say trilogy? Series. These ones. These are the story of two people. Well, the first book, The Northern Lights, which I also have, is a story of a girl called Lyra Belaclava. Yeah. Belaclava. Lyra Belacqua turned Lyra Silvertongue. A girl who is sort of escaping an institution she doesn't like, I guess, and trying to find a relative of hers and like save him from this sort of, I guess it's a prison, like they think it's a prison, right? Yeah. Her destiny will take her to the frozen lands of the Arctic, where the witch clans reign and ice bears fight, and the extraordinary journey that awaits her will have immeasurable consequences far beyond her own world. But her initial sort of challenge is to find her uncle. But then it develops from there because things happen, etc. But anyway, these are the other books in the trilogy, The Subtle Knife being the second book and The Amber Spyglass being the third, and they have such gorgeous covers. But I will get to them. I just had to take a little break because my brain is fried from exams, so I couldn't immediately finish the entire freaking trilogy. That is relatively high fantasy for me anyway. I'm pretty weak to fantasy. My last one about a specific book is a book on your TBR that you're dying to read. Now this is a very random book actually. Like really random. This is Ivan Illich's Deschooling Society. This book came out in 1970 if I'm not mistaken. Certainly feels like it did. Yeah, 1970 was when this book was first published. This is a book written by Ivan Illich, who is born in Vienna in 1926. Yeah. Yeah, no, my tape's falling. You can tell it's an old book because I've got a tape stuck back on. Because this is an old copy that a family member had and was like, hey, you would like this. And I'm like, you're right, damn right I would. Obtained a PhD in history. Yeah, but this is a non-fiction book about the difference between schooling and education and about, and about how we should change. And I think it's really interesting to have older books on this topic because obviously now a lot of people have a lot of different views on the education system here in America and in lots of different countries, and if we should be more like a lot of the Scandinavian countries or where we should go with it. But I find it quite interesting to have a perspective from 50 years ago now. God, the 70s was 50 years ago. Don't like that. Because it's just nice to see the change. And yeah, I find it really interesting to see what people thought then and what they think now, because it wasn't a huge amount. 50 years isn't like a ridiculous amount of time ago, but the education system has also changed since then, and I find it really, really interesting. And the final question is, how many books are on your TBR shelf? Now, I'm not going to tell you an exact number because that would be a spoiler for my March saying that it will have changed, but I don't want to do that because that's becoming part of my wrap-ups in my monthly reading updates. However, I'll tell you that if you will focus on me, hello. No, great, I'm out of focus, I'm sorry. This thing sucks. There, I'm here. That it generally fluctuates between about 35 and 50. Again, it depends on how many I've been buying or what have you. Excuse me, but it generally fluctuates between about 35 to 50 books, and I ended my month of February with 39 books. So that's where you are that I had to read. So that's where we are. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this video, you know what to do. Please remember to drink your water, eat your vegetables, and peace out, I guess.